Hi, and welcome to a new episode of Worlds Collide, the podcast where I talk to people who moved abroad. I am your host, Viktoria, and I'm so glad that you're here today. So before I start, I just wanted to let you know that in case you really like this podcast, there are two ways that you could support it. So the first one would be, hey, just leave a 5-star rating for this podcast wherever you listen to it. If you listen to Apple Podcasts, then you could also just write one short sentence why you like it so much. Because if a podcast has more ratings, the more people tune in. So get more people to listen to this. And then there is another way how you could support this podcast. I just set up a Buy Me a Coffee, so you could also buy me a coffee. This way you could just, make sure that I'm super motivated for the next episode, for recording, for editing, because podcasting is a lot of fun, but also sometimes takes a lot of time. However you decide to do it, I appreciate it. And because I just mentioned the Buy Me a Coffee thing, by the way, it's buymeacoffee.com/Worlds Collide. You will find the link in the show notes. But I want to do a quick shout out to my first supporter, or the first person who bought me a coffee. Thank you, HP, for this coffee. I could buy even like 2 or 3 cups of coffee and even leave a tip. That was so generous. You really made my day. All right. Now, enough of that. I want to come to this week's episode. So this week's episode is very strong contrast, as it already says in the title. My guest moved from Barbados to Sweden. So we talk about her contrast between the two countries. We also talk about her personal development coaching for expats or other people who need it. Yeah, we talk about all contrast, Sweden and Barbados, and what are some weird facts that she had to get used to, and some examples how people reacted to her. So listen in. It's a really nice episode, really insightful, and I hope you will like it. And here it is. Here's my talk with Jackie. So my guest today is Jackie. Hey, how are you today?
Hey, Victoria. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, man, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So tell me, where are you?
I am in a town in Sweden called Jönköping.
Where is that?
So Sweden is a long country, and most of the population, I would say, lives more towards the last third, the southern third. And so if you're coming from Gothenburg, you're basically going east. And when you're halfway across the country, you come to Jönköping. It's at the base of the second largest lake in Sweden called Vättern.
Okay. Well, second largest lake, that already sounds very pretty to me.
It is very, very pretty. It's always nice to go there because I live about 6 kilometers away from the lake. So it's always nice to go there in the summer and see the water shining on, the sun shining onto the water. Mm-hmm. It's very pretty. And it's such a big lake that it looks like sea more than lake.
Okay. And how long have you been in Sweden?
I came here in April 2011.
Oh, wow. Okay. And why did you pick Sweden?
I came here to work with a church-related organization back in 2011. I had been with the organization in South Africa, and then I moved here. And I've been here since then. Okay.
And do you remember why you wanted to stay? I mean, was that the plan when you went in the beginning?
No, I think in my head I was thinking 2 to 5 years, because I realized that if you're going to be in a new place, it takes time to settle in. But the longer I stayed, the longer I wanted to be here. Even with the struggles and everything, it started to feel more like home than my home country.
And where is your home country?
I'm from an island in the Caribbean called Barbados.
Oh, you're from Barbados. Oh, so wait, you are from where Rihanna is from.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, that is so different. I mean, come on, like palm trees,
Yeah.
beaches, and then Sweden, cold, very pretty nature, but also very dark and not as warm.
Yes, exactly. And that part, the darkness and the cold together can be quite a struggle
Oh, yeah, I bet.
for my Caribbean body, and Caribbean mind. Um,
Uh-huh.
but Sweden is really beautiful, and I think both countries have, their problems, but also have the things that endear you to them, that make you love them. You know,
Yeah.
they're both beautiful in their own ways.
Yeah. And so do you still struggle with the darkness
Every year,
every
every year.
year?
Yeah.
So, do you do anything for it? So I'm just like telling you why I'm asking this. So I just was scrolling through Reddit, through the expat subreddit,
Hmm.
and there was this one post from this girl. She moved to Finland,
Hmm.
and she's like, it's so daunting. Like, I don't know. And a lot of people said, like, have you tried supplements? So I don't know.
Yeah. So I actually started taking vitamin D soon after I arrived here, but
Uh-huh.
the version that they sell in most of the pharmacies is maybe like 25 micrograms. And I was talking to a counselor once because I was struggling with different things, and she checked and she said, actually, because your skin is dark and your skin protects you from the sun, you actually need to take more.
Ah, okay.
So I take at least 100 micrograms a day,
Wow.
and I take it all
Yeah.
year round because in Sweden, yeah, in the summer you can have wonderful sunshine, the sun is up all the time, but sometimes it rains, especially around midsummer, and it can rain for a week.
Right.
And when that
Mm-hmm.
happens, it can get not as dark as winter, but it becomes darker. And I remember the first few years, I'd think, why do I feel so tired? Why do I feel so cranky?
Uh-huh.
And I realized I haven't seen the sun in 4 days because of the rain. You
Right.
know, so I take the vitamin D, and then I have at home a sun lamp.
A sun lab.
Yeah, I think that's what they call them. There's a very strong bulb or light in it. It's
Is
flat.
I heard that before. Yes. Uh-huh.
So I don't do it every day. I probably should, but sometimes I just sit when I'm eating breakfast. They say you should do it for an hour, and I have it in front of me as I'm sitting there eating, because the thing is, you need to take light in through your eyes as
In
well.
through your eyes. Yes.
So,
Yes.
so it's the vitamin D all year round, the sun lamp, and I try to make myself go outside every day. And
Mm-hmm.
my brain wants to say, okay, it's cold, it's raining, it's dark, you should stay inside,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but you do really need to get out, move your body a little bit more, get some fresh air. Sometimes it's actually brighter when you go outside, and you feel better when you go outside. I try
Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
exercise and spend time with people as well. I think that has been a great help for me to be able to have times when you can just go and relax with friends and so on.
Yeah. Okay, so talking about that friends, you came with a group. So were you already connected to a lot of people when you came?
Okay, so I actually came by myself, but had a job and or volunteer
Uh-huh.
work
You
that I was
already had
privy to.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that was very helpful. I think
Uh-huh.
because even before I came, I was reading about Swedish culture, and they said that it's very, very, very difficult to make friends with Swedes.
Yeah.
But then they said once you made a friend, though, it's like having a friend for life.
Yeah.
So they're very cautious with that. They can be very friendly, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they see you as a friend.
Yeah.
You know? So
And oh, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say that that's been important in these years, to be able to proactively build friendships with people.
Brett, mhm. Do you remember how you did it?
I made a lot of mistakes. I
Uh,
irritated people a lot, I think. Just because the Caribbean, we have a different way of doing things. And I
right.
think it was partly not giving up, partly trying to learn the culture. And it really helped that there were people around me who, they were also open to making friends.
Yes. Were they also from abroad?
Yeah, some are,
The
some, but
people.
there are Swedes as well. Like one of my closest friends, she was the maid of honor at my wedding. she actually said when she was growing up, she didn't have a lot of foreigners around her. And now she
Mm-hmm.
was living in this area where there are lots of foreigners. And she really wanted to have like a different upbringing for her kids, and
Mm-hmm.
wanted to try and deal with the maybe the stereotypes or the misconceptions that she had.
Yeah.
And somehow we formed a connection when I came to visit before actually moving here. And so
Mm-hmm.
she was the one actually, if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't be friends, because she would say, hey, come and have lunch with us. And I thought,
Yeah.
oh, she's just being nice to this foreigner. And it took me a while to realize she was actually actively trying to build a friendship.
Okay.
So it's helpful when you have people who want to take that step, to risk
Yes.
that,
Yes. But it was also like you have to be willing to
Yeah,
like leave all your um thoughts, your negative thoughts behind.
yeah,
It's like, yeah, all your doubts.
yeah. And sometimes even when something happens that you find offensive, to choose which ones you deal with.
Uh-huh.
You know, I, there are things that have been said and done that, I mean, maybe it was where I was as a person as well, that I didn't like react to them, but I think it helped that I wasn't reacting every time
Mm-hmm.
somebody did or said
Mm-hmm.
something offensive.
And is it then mostly because of your skin color that people said something, or because you are not from Sweden in general, or?
Sometimes because you're a foreigner, I don't. The majority of things I've experienced, I don't think the people were trying to be offensive.
Yeah, okay, I heard that before. Like, they would want to make a joke,
Yeah,
but then it's not funny to you,
yeah,
but they don't even were aware of it.
exactly. Or
Yeah.
even a very well, let's just say that darker skinned women, well, black women actually, women with my kind of hair, everywhere will understand this. People think, "Oh my goodness, your hair is so different. Let me touch
Let
it."
me touch it. Oh my god. I mean, who wants their head to be touched? I mean, you're not 5 years old anymore. Come on.
Exactly. And to be honest, at the beginning, I was kind of like calm about it. Okay, yeah, I know it's different. I know this is something that you don't quite understand. So, with this kind of idea of, okay, our hair is different, but it's still here. Some people that I knew, I would say, okay, yeah, look, and I made a little fun about it. Sometimes I had a bigger fro, and I would make fun a little bit with them and so on. But then it got out of hand. I was at the swimming pool one day, and I just showered and changed and was combing out my hair, and this woman I've never seen before came up behind me and was like, "Ooh, so pretty, so pretty," and she started patting my head.
Isn't that weird?
So weird. I
I mean,
just
must have felt weird too.
my eyes. I just because I was looking in the mirror, and I just kind of went like, "What?" And I opened my eyes, and she saw my expression, and she just ran off.
Right. Yes.
Like, I don't know how she was thinking or what she was thinking, but we try to. There was a point where people didn't understand that it would become so upsetting because it's here, but they don't realize it's still a part of your body. It's like touching your butt or
Yeah.
something.
Did it happen often?
There was a point where it was happening often. Some people would ask, and there was a point where I was, okay, fine, I know you, it's fine.
God, I was like, I mean, say like, no.
But there was like, because when it happened once in a while, I thought, okay, fine, I know this, my hair is different. I know that if you go to the Caribbean,
Uh,
some people will be like, oh wow, your hair is. But then it just got to be, um, I think disrespectful would be the word.
yeah.
You know, not a, oh wow, I'm interested in who you are and to learn more about you. I started to feel like an animal in a zoo,
Right. Yeah.
and so I started reacting. And sometimes people didn't listen, so I had to really be aggressive about it for them to pay attention.
Wow.
And that was the hardest part, that they didn't listen when I first said no.
It's like talking to a little child almost.
Yeah, there were people who listened, and I'm very
Yeah.
happy about that. But there were some that were like, "Oh, what's the big deal?"
I mean, you don't touch their head for whatever, for starter.
Exactly.
You said like a minute ago that you were aware of like the different culture for the Swedish people, but did that help your I don't know, your mood or your spirit?
I think it helps a bit when you realize that this some of the differences that people have, but it doesn't necessarily prepare you for how you're going to react to it.
Right, exactly. Yes.
You know this could happen, but when it actually happens, it can be like a slap in the face. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, like, oh my goodness, what is wrong with these people? That can be a reaction you feel inside. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. But in the beginning, were you in the same place where you are now, or
Yeah,
did you start in a different town?
I've always been in this area.
Uh-huh. And so why then did you decide to stay?
I think it was a mixture of things, including starting to find a community here
Mm-hmm.
and feeling like I was making progress with the language, even though I mean, even today, after all these years, it's still stressful at times. I still make mistakes, but I started to feel like I was making progress going forward. I think I actually fell in love with the country in some way,
Mm-hmm.
and
Can you talk more about that? Why?
it's a good question. I'm not sure if I can put it into proper words, but I think getting to know some people and not just know them as in hang out a few times, but really getting to know people and seeing who they really are.
Is it because like they only become like a friend after you tried and tried and tried and then they're like friends for life?
Um, I think it takes time to get to know people,
Uh-huh.
and as you get to know them, like individuals, yeah, you get closer.
Yeah.
But I think also getting to know the culture, the people a bit better, and appreciate them, good and bad. Appreciate some of the reasons for the differences. Um, it sort of stirs up a love for them. I don't know how to put it
Mm-hmm.
into proper words. It's not like everything has always been perfect. There've been lots of issues. I've struggled. I had struggles with visas and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there was this kind of love developing for them, uh, and feeling also. And this was something that I'm not sure if I expected this. I started to change, maybe not completely positively, but some of the changes that were happening in me were very positive, and I
Mm-hmm.
liked them. I liked being away from my old culture has allowed me to grow in a way that I would not grow in my own culture.
Uh-huh.
And I think there was something about that that I really appreciate as well.
Uh-huh.
And as time went on, different things happened. There was a point where maybe I could have gone back, but then there was a pandemic.
Uh-uh.
I ended up getting married as well.
Oh, too
So
sweet?
yeah,
To a tall and blonde
yeah,
sweet. Yeah. Like the
tall,
stereotype.
pretty much in terms of how he appears. Yeah,
Yeah.
green blue eyes, red blonde hair,
Uh-huh.
tall. He does not tan. He,
No, I only get a sunburn.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So he's good where he is.
I mean, yeah, I mean, he's in his appearance, he's typical, but I think there are a lot of things about him that are atypical, his worldview and so on. So we've been friends. I think I met him when I came to visit before moving
Mm-hmm.
here. So we've been friends for quite a long time. He, I think I'd say he's curious about not just about the world, but he's curious and likes to know things and so on. And we kind of bonded on the nerd level.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we were friends for a long time. We only got together in the same year that we got married.
Okay. All right, then also that explains why you then wanted to stay.
Yeah, in the long run, it was like, okay, now I have uh, married here, I have his family here. Uh,
Uh-huh.
it is a much more secure feeling because of that as well.
Right, right. And can you talk then a little bit of differences, for example, of family values?
One thing I've noticed, and this was said to us early on, is that not to us as a couple, but those of us who came here, is that Swedes tend to, how do you say this, take family very seriously. And I didn't quite understand it at the time, but I understand what they mean now. It's not that other people don't take family seriously. It's that even in like a cultural perspective, they see the nuclear family as the this is who I'm responsible for, this is my crew sort of thing. Whereas where I'm from, when I say family, I'm talking about yeah, my parents and my siblings, but I'm talking also about
Mm-hmm.
my cousins, my aunts and
Mm-hmm.
uncles, talking about all of these people. So
Mm-hmm.
when we have a family gathering in Barbados, there's lots of cousins and second cousins and all of these kind of relations. Whereas here, for a lot of, or what I've noticed for a lot of Swedes, they're talking family. They mean their parents, their siblings, their children,
Mm-hmm.
and they might know their cousins, their first cousins, but they don't necessarily have close relationships with them.
Okay.
That's
So
what I've
everything
noticed.
is more private.
In a way, or maybe the circle is a bit smaller, might be the way to
Uh-huh.
put it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
might be the way to put it. And that probably affects some of the other ways that they interact with each other and the ways that they view family. Like a Swede will almost do anything for a family member. It's there's a lot that you can expect of your family, even if you don't get along.
Yeah.
I've
Okay.
noticed.
Mm-hmm.
They will show up, or when the family is functioning reasonably well, they will show up for
Mm-hmm.
each other, even though
Mm-hmm.
it's that smaller group that they're talking about.
Okay, and then I want to come back to something that you said earlier, your language
Hmm.
struggle. Tell me about like how you started learning Swedish and like what your day-to-day interactions are. You still speak like in your job in English or
Well, I do coaching and online, and I do it mostly in English. I
mm-hmm.
can speak Swedish, but I've noticed, and I think this is just what happens when you learn a language as an adult, that sometimes you can say something and you might be completely correct in what you say, but you don't feel like you've said what you want to say.
Uh-huh.
And it sometimes can feel like there's this frustration that comes from not being able to express yourself in a way that feels like you've expressed yourself. you
Uh-huh.
know so I do tend to prefer to like coach and so on in English.
Sure.
I can do Swedish, I can make a presentation in Swedish, um,
Mm-hmm.
but even then it might feel like, okay, maybe I didn't speak as well as I could have,
Right.
or I was thinking so much about what I should say that maybe my sentences were less refined than they could be. you know
Mm-hmm.
and I've also noticed that there are days that works better than others. There's certain
Yeah.
days it's no problem, and then there's certain days I feel like, what, can I speak this language? What, I thought I could do this better.
Yeah.
you know and I
Yeah.
remember earlier on, for several years, there were times when I would feel stuck between English and Swedish.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't. I'm with a group of people. They're in discussion in Swedish, blah 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 blah, and I'm understanding them, but I just cannot find the words in English or Swedish to respond. So I'm just
Right.
there listening to them, just kind of like, okay, and they're just chatting, and it's
Yeah,
that
you
kind of
just
like,
have like a giant knot in your brain, kind of
yeah,
just doesn't come out. I have that sometimes too. Hmm.
like, okay, and you don't really know how to deal with it, when you're with
Yeah.
people. Um, so there've been different struggles. I was fortunate in that in Sweden there's something called Swedish for Immigrants,
Hmm.
SFI, and you start it based on your competence in your own language. So if someone is unable to read or write in their own language, sorry, they will start at A level.
Hmm.
But if you've been to university and so on, you can start at C, or if you high school, you start at B. And then
Hmm.
after that, there's some other. They've changed the system a little bit, but there's some other levels that you can take, like ground school, basic school, I think it's called, or Swedish SAS. I forgot what it stands for now. Swedish as a second language. That's it. You know.
Hmm.
So there are different opportunities that are provided for free. You just need to
Uh-huh.
register, make sure you have to have an ID number to be able to do it. And then there are many language cafes around, or sometimes they go beyond just sitting and speaking, but they will take time to teach the language within those settings. That was because
Okay.
of the refugee crisis where many people were coming and they didn't have the
Right.
ID number, so they couldn't come into the SFI class.
Ah,
So then, there were a lot of different people who made opportunities for people to learn the language.
okay. So it was just like an open place, like a cafe, and then they did language classes there.
Yeah, there's some of them like that. Yeah,
Oh, and that's still okay, but that's cool, I think.
yeah, the different churches and other groups or associations who run
Uh-huh.
them. Uh,
Uh-huh. And do you remember for you when it kind of clicked that you was like, okay, at least now I understand and I'm okay in my day-to-day things I need?
I think it went in stages because there were points where okay, I can do the day to day. I can go shopping and understand certain things. I can say the basic things, and that maybe happened within the first year, the basic things. But then there was the times where okay, I feel like I can have a conversation or make a presentation. I think I did some in that must have been after being there for 3 years, but thinking okay, I know that I am not using the most advanced Swedish, and maybe I sound like a child when I speak, but at least I'm able to put thoughts together in a
Mm-hmm.
cohesive way. And then I think after 5 years, that was the first time I realized that I could survive a whole day in Swedish without feeling exhausted.
Okay.
I mean, I still felt a bit tired, but not the sort of I need to run away and hide
Yeah.
sort of feeling.
Yeah, so it takes some time.
Yeah.
But everybody's different. Sure.
Yeah. Some people, they pick it up really quickly, and some people really struggle, even when they have access to different things. I think a lot has to do with your situation, um, how much you've been exposed to in your own language, or how many other languages you've been
Mm-hmm.
exposed to. Also, the alphabet can also be very important when it comes to reading. Swedish
Uh-huh.
is a similar alphabet to English. It's very different for people who speak non-Germanic languages like
Right.
Arabic and so on.
Yeah.
So, and having people around you in your circle who speak the language is very important.
Yeah, that is very important. If you only stick to your own language group, you will never learn the language because you
Exactly.
will always switch back to whatever is the easiest for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Um, and so tell me now about your coaching because you already said it 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. So during the time that I've been here, I've been working with human resources quite a bit. And the thing that I was most passionate about was people development, training, and things like that, and coaching. And when I started doing this on my own, I was kind of just saying people development, but then I was encouraged by a friend actually who said, why are you focusing just on that? You have all this experience of having moved to a foreign country, learned the language, and settled in. That's your group. That's who you should be focusing on.
Uh-huh.
Excuse me. So then I realized a lot of the people that I was coaching before were actually people who had moved here for a year or two
Mm-hmm.
already, and a lot of what we talked about was dealing with the changing culture and the frustrations that they experienced.
Uh-huh.
You know, and I had before making this decision to start my coaching company, I had gone through a lot of how do you explain this? After COVID, I'd gone through an almost burnout, I would call it, and had taken
Okay.
time to do some reflection. Okay, where do I see myself going now? What do I want to do? And realized that coaching or people development and creativity were very important to me. So I took some courses um, to improve my skills in both things, and just realized that yeah, I really want to be in a place where I'm helping people, and
Mm-hmm.
the group that I understand best would be that whole idea of transition, moving to a new place, learning a new culture, and so on. So
And what is it called?
the so there's a company, and it's actually called Vetcraft Creative Studios, but we run a program called Thrive, or I run a program called Thrive,
Uh-huh.
with different parts to it. One is focusing on personal development to help people feel more secure in who they are, because that is one of the big things with moving to a foreign
Yeah.
country. You start to doubt yourself because everything is so different, and what you thought was right might not be right, and people misunderstand you, and who am I? So one of the most important things is to be more secure in yourself. So that part focuses on people development, and then the option to do some sessions that focus more on cultural adjustment and cultural intelligence.
Okay, so you do kind of both.
Yeah, because I see the two as very important for this
They
whole
connected.
process. You know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And what is like one of the questions that you get the most from them?
Some people want to know how to make friends. Some people want to know
Yeah,
how
they're
to learn a language.
everybody is lonely, yeah.
But then I think the one that keeps coming back is understanding how they can be themselves and feel like themselves. It's not in those words, but that's what it keeps coming back to.
Yeah, exactly. Because probably when you're from a different culture, maybe you come across as weird or rude or not respectful, whatever it is.
Yeah. And you're not trying to, you're not even doing
Yeah,
anything that's really bad, you know?
Yeah.
It's just you don't know the rules for that culture.
Right.
And I think what tends to happen is people feel like they need to change themselves. Because everyone talks about, integration, you have to become like the people and so on. But the thing is, you can't. No matter what I do, I will never look like a Swede. I'm a citizen, but I will never look like an ethnic Swede.
Yeah.
Even if I never speak English again, never go back to my country, never leave Sweden, I'm not going to sound like one either. I can get to a point where it maybe sounds more like I'm a foreigner who grew up here. But I'm never going to have the same experiences as a person who's grown up here and has had ethnically Swedish parents. Yeah. So why would I try to be that person?
Yeah, exactly.
It's only going to cause conflict in myself.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Which then leads me to be bitter about myself or bitter about the people and not want to have anything to do with them. So what I've been telling people is don't try to fit in. Instead, try to find your place. Because in trying to find your place, you do need to learn the language or make that effort and try to understand the culture and the people and so on. You still need to do many of the same things, but now you're not thinking about changing yourself. You're more trying to think of how can I contribute to this society, to this people that I've moved to in a good way, and what can I learn from them? Rather than trying to deny everything that is you that is not like them.
Right, that's not helpful.
Exactly. No.
Yeah. This is online?
Yeah, coaching? Well, right now I'm doing one-on-one coaching. But plan to, from I think April, launch a group coaching training course once a week.
Cool. How do people find you?
They can go to the website. It's called activatethepotential.com. Or they can write to me directly at Jackie, J-A, and this is not how my name is normally spelled, but Jahki at vetcraftcreativestudios.com.
All right, I'll make sure that you will find this in the show notes. So if people check the show notes, there'll be a link and then they will find you. And you work within all Europe?
Yes. Initially I thought maybe I'd just stick with Sweden, but I've actually been getting a few clients from different places. And so my main focus has been Europe and people who have moved into a culture. But recently someone was actually encouraging me to make the offer wider to people who've maybe done a transition from one company to the next or something like that. So my main focus group would be internationals in Europe, but I'm very open to helping people in a different kind of transition.
Yeah, I mean, for you, everything in whole Europe, you're in the same time zone.
Exactly.
So everything works. And if it's online, if you're not like person to person, then
exactly. So.
All right, cool. All right, so I'll make sure that people can find you here.
Thank you.
Going back to Sweden, what's your favorite food?
I love berries. Love them. Love berries. Get so excited. And there's so many different kinds of berries here.
Oh, okay.
You know, where where I'm from, you don't really see berries in the supermarket that often
Okay.
because they won't make it there, you know. But
Right. Yeah, yeah.
strawberries, blueberries, lingonberries for making like jam and so on,
Right.
gooseberries, and
Gooseberries, yeah.
what is that? That's not cranberry. It's another berry.
Goose
There's gooseberry. There's another. I'm trying to think of the other ones, but I just love
raspberries.
raspberries. Oh my goodness! And you can just go into the forest at the right time of year and pick,
Yeah,
and
I know.
it's crazy. That blows my mind that you can pick these things and just take them home.
But is it in Sweden too? You don't pick the ones from the bottom because they might have the worm. So you
From the
only
bottom.
can pick the ones from the top.
Well, for blueberries,
No, for like any berries. Like because I also grew up with berries
yeah,
everywhere,
yeah.
and we were not allowed to eat the ones that are in like up under your knee high.
Uh-huh. Like the blueberries don't tend to grow that high in Sweden.
Ah, okay. See, okay, for blueberries. I mean, it's also probably if you wash them, then it's fine, you
Yeah,
know.
so and then people
But
have
if you
these
just like right pick them and eat
yeah.
them,
But people have like there's this little picker you can use so you can pick several at the
I've
same time.
never seen that before,
It's the
actually.
craziest thing. And you just like scoop them up and you get lots of leaves as well and small twigs.
Sure.
So you have to sort it when you get home. But often people will just pick the berry and eat it as well as they're picking the larger groups. And it's a bit of a social thing as well. So
Ah, yeah.
yeah, you
You go
know,
together?
yeah, you go with friends and like the kids run around and pick. And I'm never as committed to picking as my adult friends. I'm a little bit like I pick and I eat, and this is cool. But they're picking because they're going to have breakfast for several months in a
Mhm.
row, and then they're going to pick so they can make pies and
Uh-huh.
cakes and all sorts of things. And I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I want some blueberries with my yogurt in the morning.
Yeah.
So I'm not as committed to picking as they are, but we do
Yeah. They're
enjoy
making all
going.
the dishes.
Yeah, and it's nice. It's like there's forest everywhere. You know,
Yeah.
you can just go and pick them, and I love eating the berries. I'm a little bit of a picky eater, so I don't tend to eat red meat or beef or things like that. So
Hmm.
the Swedish meatballs are not my favorite.
Okay.
I don't tend to eat them, uh, but I
I
love
mean,
the
honestly,
fruit
like
stuff.
for me, and when I think of Swedish food, I only think of IKEA. Whatever there is at IKEA, you know.
They do lots of different interesting things, actually, especially like around Christmas. They could do this thing called Flying Jacob with banana and chicken in I guess it's a white sauce kind of thing.
That sounds
And
so weird.
you think so, right? Until you eat it, and it's actually really nice. Yeah,
Ah, banana and chicken. All
yeah,
right,
I love it.
I'll check it out.
I love it. And salmon, I'm so thankful that there's so much salmon here.
Uh-huh.
Because where I'm from, even when you buy salmon in Barbados, it's smaller and it's more expensive. So you can eat salmon
Uh,
quite regularly here, you
uh-huh.
know, and it's so tasty, actually. So I appreciate that. That was one of the things I appreciated most in terms of food, especially when I first moved here. That you just go in the supermarket and you buy this bit of salmon, or sometimes you buy them in four pieces of like
Right,
125 grams each, and you got dinner
right.
for four people just like that. I love
Yeah.
it. Love the
Did,
salmon.
did you remember like the first time you stepped foot in a supermarket in Sweden?
Yeah, I think the first time I went, I was with someone.
Uh-huh.
I was the one here in this area where I live. It was well, it was a little hard to understand everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've made some mistakes in the supermarket. So one time I was so happy to see the shampoo that I was accustomed to using. I was like, oh wow, cool. And so I bought the shampoo. I went home, and then when I was showering, and I was like, why does the shampoo feel so weird? And I looked at it properly. It was a conditioner.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
I was because my brain just it does this thing, especially when feeling tired because of language and so on, where it filters out words you just don't look at them.
Yeah, right, I know. Hmm.
So because you're not seeing the word you're accustomed to, your brain just goes, okay, whatever, it looks right. You know.
Yeah.
So I've had my share of mishaps.
Oh yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, and the supermarket here is a decent size, but it's not the biggest one. There are some that are even bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm. Do you have any downsides of being abroad?
yeah, I mean, you miss family and friends, especially with the pandemic, which meant that you couldn't travel for a
Mm.
while. During that time, my mom actually started to go to decline quite a bit, and we were able to
Mm.
visit her once, and we were getting ready to go and visit her again when she passed away.
Okay.
And that was just really hard to not be there, be around for that. Um, I have some what do you say? That's I'm thinking of the Swedish word. So I have like a niece and nephew who are growing up, and I see them once in a while, but not actually
Sure.
around them. You
Yeah.
know, and of course the whole having to relearn how to be an adult and how to feel like an adult in this
Uh-huh.
place. From learning the language to just being able to understand the system in a way that you can actually use it properly.
What do you mean with the system?
So in your own country, there's certain things you never have to think about. One, you don't need to do them. And two, if you did, you would understand how to interact with the authorities or interact with the system,
Mm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know? But the process of getting an ID card when
All
I
right.
first moved here, another friend who had recently moved here, we decided, okay, we're going to go through these things together. So we would go with each other to open a bank account. We went
Yeah.
together, we practiced how to say, um, do you speak English? We made
Right.
sure we could say
Uh-huh.
that properly and say we don't speak much Swedish. And that was the first thing we would always greet people with.
Oh. So
Because
not hello, anything.
we say hey, like hey is hello, and I was like,
Yeah, hey,
come to
yeah.
prata engelska. Like, just so they know, okay, we're trying, but we're new, so we don't really know how to say
It's
what we
like,
want to say, you
mm-hmm.
know? And it can be a little bit scary, when the bank sends you some notice, which they're sending to everybody, and it's all in Swedish, and you're just like, okay, or trying to figure out how to use the online banking the first time, you know. It,
Was there at least like a button, an English button?
when I first came, some websites had English options, but
Uh-huh.
they would often have maybe one of their pages in English and not all of the
Right.
information.
Got
It's
it.
gotten better now.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually, if you move here with someone who can then show you things, you feel just more at ease and more confident. Whereas when you come by yourself, you have to, I would take, okay, I need to set aside time. I need to set aside an hour to sit down and just kind of try to figure out what's happening in this thing,
Mm.
because it was so different to what I'm accustomed to. And it's so easy to miss something important. Even now,
Yeah.
I can read something. If I read it too quickly, I might miss one important word. I
Yeah.
completely misunderstand it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's the thing. Like you then have to learn how to do things that even teenagers and sometimes even small children know how to do.
Yeah.
You know, you ask somebody how to get somewhere by bus or whatever, and they say, "Well, why don't you just go to the website?" There's a website. Yeah, just go. There's an app. There's an app. And for them, it's like, why are you asking me? Just do the thing. It's so easy.
Yeah.
But in my country, they don't have apps for the bus.
Right. Okay. So
So
in Sweden, everything is also very um, forward,
forward in terms of,
forward in terms of technology.
yeah, there's a lot of technology in many places. You in some places you have your self checkout. Um, Online banking is quite a big thing, and it's very convenient, but you have to learn how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they are people, in my impression, is that they're people who like the idea of progress
Mm-hmm.
and going forward with things quite a bit. Um, it
That's
was kind
always
of,
my impression of all the Nordic countries. I think I was like, that I said it's weird, but yeah, I feel like all the Nordic countries are at least have the reputation for being progressive in terms of whatever making life easier,
excuse me.
technology.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite a thing. And like, you're going to play paddle ball and you don't even have to meet a person. Not that I've done this, but they give you a code and you can check in and you get whatever you need, and you just when time is up, then something closes off, so you can't continue. They're very much into doing those kind of things. Not necessarily big fans of using paper, and that's an environmental thing as well.
I was thinking that now we eliminated a lot of paper.
Yeah.
But so I was thinking like, okay, so you stop cutting down all these trees, etc. But then everything is online, and you need these huge servers that use more electricity. So is it really more environmentally friendly?
I don't know, because the batteries, it's great to have batteries, but how are we making the batteries?
Yeah, exactly.
So there's this toss up, but
there's always like this, okay, we don't use paper, that's great, but there is this huge server that needs all the electricity now.
Yeah.
I mean, just my thought.
Yeah, I don't. There's certain things that I follow, but I know for some people they're really into the environment and saving the environment, and I agree with it. But I can't say that I have as much knowledge about it as a Swedish school child, for example. Because my impression is that they've been taught a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. I separate my garbage. We have several containers under our sink to separate our garbage, but I don't necessarily know all of the things that is possible to do. One thing that was a little bit surprising was, like, in the US, they like to use checks.
I used to. I mean, I think it's also very little.
When I first came here, people didn't even, like, well, I don't even know what you would do with this.
Yeah, that was me coming to the US. I was like, what is this? Like, are we in 1950? So I had no idea what that is.
And people don't like cash as much.
So everything is paid with a card. If
possible. And I understand why, but it's just so unusual to not have, and I like not carrying cash. It just helps me not spend money. But yeah, I'm so accustomed to people walking around with money in their pocket and paying for things with cash.
Okay, sure.
So, but here that doesn't happen that much. You use a card, or you use your phone, or use your card on your phone. You can get your card into the bank ID app in your phone, or the bank app in your phone, and like just bleep your phone with the card on it, so you don't even have to have the card with you.
Yeah, that's here too. Yeah,
it freaks me out sometimes. It's convenient, but it's just such a different way of thinking. So it's very interesting.
A different question. Have you thought of ever moving to a bigger city where you obviously, because of your skin color, you would blend in more?
A bigger city? Well, actually, where I live right now, the actual area where we live is like an area of 5,000 people from 40 to 50 different nationalities.
Okay, so there are many people from everywhere.
And like in this area, which is like it's called Förorten. It's one of these communities that was built in the 60s, I think, to have lower cost housing. And even that is amazing to me, because when I compare the low cost housing here to low cost housing in the US or where I'm from, I'm like, okay, this is actually pretty good,
Yeah. So it is affordable.
Yeah. And we don't really feel like we want to move right now because we have our community here. I think we both have to have a really solid reason to move from this area to another part of Sweden. Okay. We even have family very close by, so.
Yeah, that is nice. That is always very convenient.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you don't get used to? I mean, we already talked the technology, but is there anything else?
I'm still not used to the darkness and how dark it can get, and for how long.
Yeah.
And this weird phenomenon that when the sun starts coming out, like when the sun has disappeared and this time of year and so on, you see less people everywhere.
Right.
But when the sun starts coming out, it's like, where are these people coming from? If there's a really sunny day, you go into town, there will be people everywhere, and there will be Swedes sitting on like the jetty and the wharf, and maybe rolling up the pant legs and rolling up the sleeves or whatever, just to let the sun hit them. And they're sitting there, like with their eyes closed, looking towards the sun. That one has always been a little bit like, what? But then I found myself doing it sometimes when it's been really cold for a while, when the sun comes out, to just go and stand in the sun for a bit and get warmed up.
Yeah.
But it's still amazing to me how the weather affects people and how it affects our moods and affects how social we are. Even the conversation that we have. When I was growing up and we would see people going, oh, it's nice weather we're having, we always thought that they were doing that as I don't really want to have a conversation thing.
Right.
Until I moved here and realized that you can talk for 10 minutes about the weather. Yeah. Honestly, So some little things like that. Yeah.
And the other way around, what about like if the days are 24 hours long?
That one took me some years to deal with. And so what's happened, I grew up in the Caribbean. There's maybe an hour difference in the light.
From summer to winter.
Yeah, so the sun will always be up before 7 and it will always set by 7.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the summer, now here, the first few years when it's nice when it's light until 10, you can be out and doing things. But when the sun is up at 3 a.m. and the birds are chirping.
Yeah.
And you've gone to bed at 12.
Your night is over.
You've gone to bed at 12. And I was exhausted for a few summers because of that. So now I have to make sure that I have darkness in my bedroom or wherever I sleep. It has to be darkness. So I remember one time we were going up north and we stopped overnight at a friend's place. And she was saying to her relatives, no, she needs darkness for sleeping. And they were like climbing up, making sure that they were covering the space between the curtain and the wall and all these things. Because without that, I'm not going to get to sleep.
Yeah, but it's funny, don't they have those curtains that like close from outside?
Like in Germany, those kind of...
Yeah.
I've never seen
that here. They roll down and they're like on the outside of the
I've never seen them here. I've never seen them
here. Because that would make sense, right?
I've seen
like when in Germany, yeah, exactly. Like you roll them down, it's pitch black.
Yeah, I've seen that in Germany once, but here I don't see it. I think because a lot of people aren't affected by it, so they will have a light curtain, and they're so accustomed to it, so they have this lightish curtain, or the like if the wall is here, the curtain is maybe 5 centimeters away, and so that light coming through doesn't. They're like, oh, the room is going to be dark, and I walk in and I think, I'm never going to sleep in this.
Yeah, no, I have that too. For me, it has to be dark.
Yeah, so I have to make all these arrangements in my room to have it like pitch black so I can sleep or stay asleep. Because once the sun starts coming up and the heat where we stay, we're living in a corner, so the sun hits our bedroom window in the morning, first thing. So it really has to be dark,
No.
So that was a little bit of a struggle, but I did learn how to deal with it, and that this is what I needed, even if it's not something that most people need.
Can you just wear like a sleeping mask?
They come off all the time, or if I make it tighter, then I wake up with a headache.
Yeah, because for me, it bothers me.
Yeah, they never really work for me. The closest thing was this sort of headband that has like Bluetooth headphones in it.
I've seen them online. I've seen them like whatever on Instagram or something. Yeah,
I've worn those sometimes, and like the headphones over my ears playing rain sounds kind of blocks out the extra noises and whatever it is, and just to pull the tip of the thing over my eyes can help like darken a little bit.
Yeah,
but it's not something I like to do every night.
Of course. Okay. All right, so I think we're coming to an end.
Sure.
But thank you so much for being here and telling me everything, your ups and downs in Sweden.
Thank you for having me, Victoria. This has been fun.
Thank you. And I will make sure that people will find you and your coaching business in the show notes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Yeah, that was my interview with Jackie. So I mentioned it in the podcast, but I will mention it again. You find her links in the show notes, activatethepotential.com. And then there's also a way to book like 5 free sessions with a mini thrive. Also at activatethepotential.com/mini thrive. in the show notes. Always check the show notes. There are always so many informations there. Also, the one for the Buy Me a Coffee too. Yeah, that was it from me this week. I hope you tune in again next week. If you want to reach out to me in the meantime, you can do that via email. I think that's always the best way. worldscollide123pod@gmail.com, or also Instagram. But I notice sometimes the messages kind of get lost somewhere. There are like so many different folders in Instagram that I don't always find them or don't see them on time. Yeah, and that was it. And in the meantime, don't touch anybody's hair, because that is just weird. I hope you tune in again next week. Until then, bye.